5-Year Mission, the podcast, episode 29.
We're happy to have Fansets.com as our presenting sponsor on 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Exclusively right now, head over to TrekGeeks.com/vote and select the next pin in the Women of Trek Series 2. Also, if you go and vote on that pin, you are automatically entered to win an entire set of the Women of Trek pin series. So head on over to TrekGeeks.com/vote. Winner will be selected on April 1st. And please stay tuned till the end of this episode for a special offer on 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
By now you figured out that this is the 5-Year Mission podcast.
Welcome to another episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. This is part 2. Have we had a part 2 yet? Or have they all been part 1s or single parts?
They've only been single parters.
I think so. This is the first, second double parter. And this is just because we have
second double parter.
Yeah,
So far it's been episodic.
Yeah. We're going into our second season, so it's more of an arc this time.
Serialized, yes.
Yeah. So this episode, Mike and I are joined not by Noah. Andy and Patrick are joining us, and we're going to continue the stories about how the bands we used to be in and how the band how we met each other and that kind of thing. So again, we've done this in kind of mini form before, but now we're getting into the good stuff, right?
Darn tootin'.
Absolutely.
I am darn tootin'. You should be tootin' too.
Gross.
Anyway, let's get this show on the road. So last time, Mike and Noah and I, we talked about the bands we've been in and kind of went through our history really, and how Noah and Mike and I, we formed the Independent Band Collective, which became Midwest Emerging Artists, and that's how we met each other and started talking, and eventually became 5-Year Mission. So let's start with you, Andy. Let's or you know what? Let's not start with you, because let's keep this chronological. You're last.
Okay.
We're going to start with Patrick.
Okay.
So Patrick, why don't you tell us your story? I feel like you have as many bands right now as I have had in my entire life. So keep it brief, but no, just kidding. Just give us everything. Give us everything you want to give us and more.
How far back do you want me to go?
You could start
You
at the
choose,
beginning.
man. You just start from when you were.
So you were born, and then what?
Yeah.
I was very sick as a child, and around 4, I had my tonsils taken out, and I started singing after the surgery. And I was in the room with another kid, and the other kid had his like blankets up over his face, and he looked absolutely miserable. And I was singing, and the doctor came in and he said, he's going to heal up real fast. So that was kind of my first musical experience. I was singing cartoon music.
Which is fitting.
Which is fitting, yeah. I mean, and I used to get in trouble in school for like humming cartoon music during class, you know. And I was never like into like rock music at the time because my parents hated it. So I was just like sheltered from it.
It was footloose in there.
Yeah, right. I auditioned for choir in 5th grade, which was weird because I never auditioned for anything. I was a really quiet kid, but for some reason in 5th grade, I decided to audition for choir. And then I was in choir from 5th until graduation. And then I picked up guitar around, well, I don't want to date myself too much. I picked up guitar around age 13. And was terrible for a while, and then started writing songs a couple years later, and then started doing band stuff. And it was mostly just garage band type things at first, and it never lasted more than a couple of practices because nobody, was serious about it, except for me. So,
Clearly.
yeah. So I found this, I looked at message boards and stuff like that, and a friend of mine, actually, that I was playing in one of those bands that didn't go anywhere with, told me about a message. Like, I always saw things for, like blues guitar player, like stuff you would never really want to do seriously. And my bassist friend told me about this ad for somebody that liked the Pixies and Frank Black and some of those types of things that were looking for a guitar player. And I met this guy, Mark Searles, who sort of took me under his wing and taught me how a band sort of worked in a business way, but also just interpersonally, as far as like, you can be friends with the guys, but also, get stuff done, schedule your practices so that, on a certain night, this is how you talk to clubs when you try to get a booking, that kind of thing. So that band was called Larry and Rita's Boy. This guy, Mark Searles, had been in a band in the late 80s that I guess did pretty well around town called the Burning Limos. So he was like a sort of an ex-punk guy going into his sort of family years. His wife was having their first child, and he was just wanting to do some quote unquote key gigs. So that's how that started. And it's funny that we're like sort of in the position now that he was in then. At the time I was like just sort of out of high school. And so there was Larry and Rita's Boy, and then there was a band called Mind Rift.
Oof.
That was myself and my old buddy Ken and the aforementioned bass player I mentioned, and this drummer that really wanted to be in Metallica. But he was really great. He was really great, but like we didn't have any of the same influences, and so it was real bizarre. So I was writing sort of pop, alternative pop songs, and they came out as like metal songs because that's what everybody else was playing. So Mind Rift lasted for a little while, and then that sort of evolved into In Stitches, which went the more sort of lighter alt pop kind of route. And that was when I was really super into They Might Be Giants. And I've sort of left that behind, of course, after a couple of years.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
kind of went away.
You never hear that.
Yeah, right. So, so there was In Stitches, and that's when I started playing around the local all ages scene. We played at the Emerson and Smedley's Dream, and the Sitcom was actually the first all ages place I played at.
Now was that the upstairs or the downstairs Sitcom?
That was the downstairs. Yeah, I went to shows at the upstairs version, and then by the time I had booked something, it was the other one.
Yeah, I saw. Funnily enough, at the upstairs version of the Sitcom that held 20 people, that's where I saw Rancid on their very first tour.
No kidding.
With like 12 people in the room.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so I saw some hardcore shows and random stuff like that, and a lot of my friends were just going there, so it was just a thing to do. In the late 80s and early 90s, listening to music, I mean, I didn't really know about punk rock, so there was really just the crap that was on the radio. So I was listening to metal because pop metal, because that's all there was with heavy guitars in it on the radio. And so fortunately I got to go to places like that and broaden my horizons a lot.
Hey, Patrick, rewind a second. You were talking about how you started writing music and it was that kind of pop rock kind of stuff, but you said that your parents didn't listen. Was it just like radio that got you into it? Or how, did you go to the record store and get records? I mean, how did you get influenced by that?
Originally, I was just listening to crap on the radio, but I had this notion that I wanted to play an instrument. I'd been singing in choir for a few years, and I just kind of wanted to do something else with music. And so my mom took me to a music store, and I ended up with an electric guitar. So I just started playing electric guitar. And so at that point, I had to sort of branch out and find some guitar music, So that's kind of what happened. Yeah,
that makes sense.
So yeah, I got kind of more into the all ages scene, which was funny because by that point I was 21. So yeah, and then that kind of snowballed, and eventually my ex-wife and I opened our own all ages club, and that was in '99.
Now, which club was that? Which was
that? Was the
first?
Music Box Cafe.
That was Music Box. Okay, all right, yeah, because we talked about that before we started going. How we put my old band played the opening gala.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think we had a full weekend, like a two-day opening thing with like 10 bands each day or something. It was, and yeah, so I must have seen you there, but we didn't know each other.
Right.
So yeah, there was the Music Box Cafe, and then none of these things lasted very long because, this Broad Ripple in particular, like the city did not want teenage hang spaces. Like they did everything they could to sort of keep the Sitcom, from doing stuff. And we were like, much closer to Broad Ripple's proper. So yeah, that didn't last long. And then we moved down to Southeastern at the Volcano Room, And that one actually lasted the longest. That one went on for a couple of years. And I actually, the first place, my ex-wife used some inheritance to get the place up to code. And like we were actually making food for people, like there was actually something to do when you went there. It was a cafe, not just a music place. But then it, kind of fizzled out. And with the city down on us all the time, we couldn't keep it open.
Yeah.
When we started the Volcano Room, though, we literally had like $200, and all the friends that we made from the first place that came in and helped us get the place going. So yeah. So, and that place it was a garage. It was basically next to a strip mall, and it was like the little standalone building that they used for storage, and we rented it out.
Yeah, I got to see two of my favorite shows I saw locally were there. I got to see Adam and his package there.
Yeah.
And I saw the Locust there, which was insane.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy show. I remember we were having a hell of a time running sound at that show because
I'm sure
in the back of the room, and it was wall to wall people. Is crazy. But yeah, the acoustics, it was a garage basically. So the acoustics were horrible, but we just put up soundproofing and we painted the walls and we somehow made it work. And it sounded pretty good actually when we were done.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we built the stage ourselves with some friends, and those were good times. And we were doing okay there for a while, but eventually the place got broken into and the sound system got stolen.
Jesus.
So, and at that point, we were pretty much done running all ages clubs. But then a couple years later, we happened into Bubba's Bowling Club, which was being run by Kathy Morris, who was about to get thrown out because she wasn't making any money. We ended up sort of taking that over from her because we didn't want it to close down.
Yeah, that place was huge.
It was 10,000 square feet at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. And it was nice because we had a liquor license and we had all ages shows. So that was the cool part about it. It was in a, not a great area. It's much better now than it was.
Way
then.
better now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's one of those like shared office spaces.
So as far as bands go, I formed Destination Earth in '99. The first, I'd always written songs about things that I liked and fandom stuff, but in the '90s it was uncool to do kind of. So it would be sort of vague, as Mike likes to say, references. But then in Destination Earth, we just say, you know what, screw it. We're just going to write about aliens in space. And, I used anime samples in the songs, and, we wore spacesuits on stage, and we just went all out with it and just had a good time and said, we don't care what people think. We're just going to do it. And so that was the first sort of quote unquote fandom sort of thing that I did. So that was in 90. That went from like 99 to like 2003. We released several albums, and
Chad was in that, right?
Yeah, from the Yavin 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And he actually, we would have probably gone on longer, but he was in Devil to Pay, who got really popular with the touring schedule in the early 2000s. So yeah. So we ended up not having much time. And then I ended up being asked to join the Madeira. So I went from heavy space surf to sort of trad surf, but still high energy stuff, more melodic. And then right after that, the Shakeups formed. So, and there were some other bands mixed in there. I didn't mention Hipster Zero, which was the duo that I formed with Steve from the Shakeups. So that was sort of a geek rock band, and then Destination Earth was like the space surf, and then I ended up kind of combining the things later. So then the Shakeups kind of picked up from there, and we're doing kind of an indie pop thing during the time Bubba's Bowling Club was happening.
Yeah. That was that was one of the early incarnations of the Shakeups, and obviously it's taken many forms since then. Yeah,
that was the first one. Ed Cho and I started that band, who you guys know from the Collective. And so the Shakeups played around town for a couple of years, and then I ended up relocating to California. And I think it was during that time that the band Collective thing kind of came together. So
it came together right after you moved.
Yeah. So I was gone for about 3 years. And I ended up moving back, and then that's when 5 Year Mission started. So,
yep. Bubba's Bowling is where I met you.
That's right. Yeah, with Little Voice.
Yeah, Little Voice played with the Shakeups.
Yeah.
We met there, and we started hanging out and becoming friends, and we played a lot of shows together.
I always mention this, but I always thought it was funny that Mike would call me up from work on like a Sunday morning, you know, at like 9-10 o'clock in the morning. But then he wouldn't say anything. He would just be like, "Hey," and then he'd sort of let me carry the conversation from there. You know?
That's vintage Mike.
He still does that.
He does.
Not really
Classic. That's classic Rittenhouse is what that is.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Patrick, did you and Kathy just come to do the open mic at O'Rourke's? I can't remember. Or
Yeah, we were there a few times.
I remember you guys coming in. I couldn't remember if you actually came in to play your own shows or not.
No, we never got to play an actual show. We just played the open stages. Yeah. But yeah, I met you there.
Yeah.
So the only person I hadn't met, you know, before 5 Year Mission was Noah. I think you guys met him through the collective, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
I guess I knew Andy, and I didn't know that I knew Andy.
Yeah, it was kind of like our paths would always cross somehow.
Right.
But it was never really like, you know, hey, buddy. But then it was like, hey, I know you. It was one of those type of things.
Were you playing one of those Sloppy Seconds shows as an opener? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the Sloppy Seconds. I want to say it was either Christmas or New Year's Eve show at the Emerson.
Okay, yeah.
One of the two. I can't remember. One of the big Sloppy Second shows that they would always do there.
We've mentioned this before. So Destination Earth's second show ever was opening for Sloppy Seconds, and it was just because our bass player was friends with them.
Right.
But you know, it was sold out, 500 people, and we walked on stage in our silver spacesuits, and people just started booing before we played a note.
Oh yeah. The crowds that go to see Sloppy Seconds are notorious for like giving the openers so much crap. Like one of the bands that I'll cover that I was in, we opened for Sloppy Seconds, and some dude in the crowd came up and offered us $5 to get off stage.
Well, we have footage of a trash can from the side of the stage being thrown at our bass player during the show. There's some video, some VHS footage of that.
Sounds about right.
That was Greg, right?
That was Greg, yeah. And lit cigarette butts, you know, flying up on the stage.
Oh yeah, constantly.
We were wearing highly flammable uniforms. But you know, looking back on it, it was the best thing that could have happened to us. It was very polarizing because, like, yeah, a lot of the people there didn't like us, but we won some of the people over, and some of them liked us because we were different. So, and being that it was our second show ever, that was like the best possible way to get the word out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Andy, something that we mentioned last time is that Mike and I especially, but I think Noah too, we knew you before we knew you just because of IMN, because you were all over that.
Oh yeah, I was actually the top poster on IndianapolisMusic.net for like 2 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not surprised.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well, because IMN, where I worked at the time, I was managing a record store, and our registers doubled as like just desktop computers, and so I'd have IMN pulled up all day. And so I would just like respond to stuff like "ha, heh, huh, you're stupid," and just
Wait, that was you? No, I'm just kidding.
it was always me.
So not much has changed.
Exactly.
No, I think
I'm a little more long-winded in my insults these days.
I was going to say,
especially when it comes to news sites.
well, I remember when we first brought you in, and somebody said it was. You know, they said your name, and I'm like,
Why
you
is
mean
that
like
so
the
funny?
Farkness?
Oh yeah,
The Farkness from IMN? Yeah, your reputation preceded you, at least in so far as we knew you from IMN. So what about you, Andy? Let's go through your sordid history.
Whew.
I saw your list already. I'm gonna
it's
beat up for this one.
there's a few in here. You know what? Honestly, the reason I wanted to start playing drums was because my brother would watch the home video Motley Crue Uncensored all the time, and I'd see Tommy Lee playing and twirling sticks and be like, I want to do that. So my best friend and I in 6th grade, he was like this weird guitar prodigy, and his parents were loaded, so they were able to buy him this like gold top Les Paul and a Marshall half stack at the age of 12. And he was actually really, really good, but my mom was broke, single mom, and couldn't afford to get me drums. So I started playing in my first band on boxes and a Fisher-Price snare drum. And we would just do like Metallica and Black Sabbath covers and stuff like that. And like we were called Dark Blizzard.
Nice.
Yeah. We actually had like We actually had like the bed sheet spray painted backdrop and everything in his sunroom where we practiced.
I had one of those for the band that I didn't mention, Happy and Plaid.
That doesn't seem like it goes along with bed sheets and spray paint, though. That name doesn't match.
You had some good band name. What was that first band name, Patrick?
Larry and Rita's Boy was one of them. Minecraft.
I like that one.
So whose first band name is the worst, Chris? Remember, mine was River of Pain.
Oh, yours. Hands down.
I don't know. River of
Happy
Pain
and Plaid, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. River of Pain and Dark Blizzard are up there, man.
I know.
River of Pain is worse. Dark Blizzard's not good. But River of Pain.
Okay, my excuse for Dark Blizzard is that I was 12. How old were you, Mike?
For River
34.
of Pain.
For River of Pain?
34.
18.
There you go.
Okay. What was Noah's? I don't remember.
It was the band that he was in with his uncle.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Turnip Blood?
Turnip Blood. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Much better than River of Pain.
That's like artistic. It's exactly what you would.
I know.
I didn't name the band.
Sure. But you agreed to it, though.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
I didn't name Happy and Plaid.
Yeah.
Dark Blizzard.
Dark Blizzard. And then once I got to high school, freshman year of high school, I started meeting like all like the alternative kids. And this was like 92. And I got for Christmas the year before, I'd gotten my very first actual drum set. So I was ready to go. And then that's when we formed the band. Get this, Acid. But Acid stood for All Confusion is Divine. Dumbest thing ever. There. Now I officially win stupidest band name.
You should have stuck with Dark Blizzard.
But that was the first band where we actually had like original songs, because we started off like when we first got together, it was like, let's play some songs that we know, and we were all awful. So we'd play stuff by like the Misfits and Sex Pistols and stuff like that, and then we would attempt to play songs by the Descendants, but wow, that was way too complicated for our 14-year-old brains. How do these guys play this fast and this technical? But I was also the band that got to play my first all ages show, and it was at this another old bowling alley. This was back when I lived in Illinois, like just outside of St. Louis. And last note of the last song, I got up from behind the drums and I stage dived into the audience, and it was badass.
Was it as badass as when Mike stage dove?
Well, I didn't break anything.
Oh.
To be fair, I didn't choose to stage dive.
That's even more badass if you ask me.
You stage dove backwards.
Yeah.
You took equipment with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, how many kick drums have been destroyed because some genius guitar player or singer thought it would be a good idea to jump off the drums?
So far, I've only had one break.
Yeah, that's enough.
Surprisingly enough. Then I moved to Sweden for a while, and it's kind of messed around in bands over there and never had anything serious, just kind of jammed with some Swedish dudes every now and then, but it was all like death metal type stuff.
Oh, you missed a perfect opportunity at a band name there. You could have been Swedish Jam. I can't even say what's
Jeez. The guy that I was one of the guys that I took lessons from briefly over there just to kind of get my technical chops up. He was in a band called Cherry Rose. And they did like all like 80s hair band covers, and they would play like the town square where I lived, and it was hilarious.
At least the name was fitting.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I didn't really do anything over there. Played in a couple death metal bands and one kind of very Bad Religion influenced band, but never went anywhere because there were no clubs to play in our town. So then I moved back, and then that's when we moved to Indiana and formed the band Blinky's Evil Twin, which was named after a one-panel comic strip from Mad Magazine, where there's two clown hand puppets, and one of them's holding a gun that says, and then the other one's saying, "Better give him the money, Bob." And that side caption was like, "Suddenly, Blinky's Evil Twin shows up." I still have it somewhere in a folder.
Wait, was it like a riff off of Blinky from Pac-Man?
No, it was just like a random clown puppet's name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Blinky's Evil Twin was heavily influenced by, it was a weird mix of like weird circus punk type stuff, but then like some of the funnier bands like All and Mr. Bungle, that was one of the bands that opened up for Sloppy Seconds. And mainly because I would always bother their drummer at Karma Records, be like, come on, band, open for you guys. We have all the instruments and everything. And then finally he let us, and then that's when some dude tried to pay us to get off stage. And I took the guy's $5 and I was like, sucks to be you, because we still have 3 songs left and we're going to play them all and make you hate everything. But then we wound up switching singers and bass players, and then formed into the band that was we were together for like 8 years, called Biscuit Head, putting more like a Descendants influence to it, so it was a little more pop punk than anything else. And then I joined a band from Fort Wayne called The Shortcuts, which recorded up in Chicago with the Johann's Face Records. Mark Ruffalo was the producer. And that's where I met Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio. And he was standing behind the glass in the studio, just imitating me behind the drums. And he actually just described my drum style as hoop chap, which was just because the music we were playing was just like hoop chap, hoop chap, constantly. We embraced the aesthetic of like the late 70s punk rock, and we would encourage our audiences to spit on us. Our guitarist actually wound up catching mono at one of our shows because somebody spit towards the stage and it landed directly in his mouth.
Oh,
Wow.
come on.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, because actually I got my singer really good one time. I'd been drinking Dr. Pepper before the show, spit a really big loogie towards him, and it landed on top of his head, and he didn't realize it. And then he like leaned down to do something, like kind of bang his head a little bit or something. And then I started seeing it start dripping from the top of his head, and it just would not break. And it was the grossest thing I'd ever seen.
That's
Kind of quality content we want on 5 Year Mission, the podcast.
That's right.
yeah, let's all agree not to spit on each other. Let's make
No.
it back right here and now.
I only promise to spit on myself, which I know was normally do during a show anyway by accident. That's the Shortcuts only lasted like a year, because they'd already been together for like 2 years, and then they were already kind of arguing amongst each other by the time I joined the band. The singer was a little unhinged, and he wound up getting us evicted out of our house, and he didn't tell us until the day before we were supposed to be out. So that kind of abruptly ended the band, because we were like, I'm not going to be in a band with the guy that got us evicted and didn't tell us.
Good choice.
Let's see. So then I moved back down to Franklin, because it was a very quick move, and I didn't have much of a choice than to move back in with my parents at the age of 19. I briefly joined an early version of the Ataris. Then from that, I ended up forming the band Wild Stallions, which obviously we ripped off the name.
From where?
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure / Bogus Journey / Face the Music.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget the animated series.
And the animated series.
Wild Stallions came much later in this list than I was expecting. I was ready to call you out for not naming it off.
This is the 4th to last one still.
Yeah. All right. Keep going.
I told you I've been in bands since I was 12, man.
Yeah.
But Wild Stallions, we prided ourselves on trying to play as fast as we possibly could without dying on stage. Really fast. Like listening back to old recordings, like I have no clue how I was ever able to play as fast as I did in that band. But we had a ritual before shows that we would each down 10 Pixie Sticks and a Mountain Dew.
Oh.
Which made for some interesting shows. But yeah, our longest song was 1 minute and 38 seconds. Our shortest song was 7 seconds long. And we only ever put out 1 7-inch, and it was through the label Plan It X Records down in Bloomington.
I remember that one.
Yeah, it was there was the flagship band was Operation Cliff Clavin that got pretty big regionally for around here, but we played a lot of really cool shows. We got to open up for FYP, which was our biggest influence. Got to open up for US Bombs and Swing and Utters, a bunch of like Fat Records bands, and never really did tour though. I think furthest we went was like Chicago. I mean, that's nothing these days, but this was like before the internet was a big thing and you could just fill out a form and get into venues. Now, back then we used a thing called BYOFL was the initials, but it was called Book Your Own Life. Yeah. Oh no, that was like a Bible for touring bands back in the day. Yeah. Cause you could like, yeah, you'd go through and there would be like state by state, city by city. It would list like all the bands that were from there, venues to play, restaurants to eat at, crash spaces where it's just someone's house. Be like, yeah, we got floor space you can sleep on if you're on tour.
But so, there was really no internet at that point. So, I mean, you had to call people.
Oh yeah, you'd be out on tour and like you like your saving grace was like a prepaid calling card and like finding a working payphone.
Like back in the 90s, you know, like and before, it was like the Wild West when you were trying to like put a band together or go on tour or play shows. I mean, it was you never knew what was going to happen, really. Mm-hmm. I was just when you were talking about some of your early bands, I was just thinking, I mentioned Larry and Rita's Boy. But I remember there was a bass player we had for one show, and I just remembered where I met him. He was part of some earlier like 80s has-been band, and they had like broken up, and it was a female singer, this drugged out bass player, and their manager, and they auditioned me.
Oh, good Lord.
And yeah, like they thought they were rock stars, but like literally it was a singer and a drugged out bass player with their manager. Well, we ended up actually having their bass player play in Larry and Rita's Boy for one show, this show in Muncie, and he was so bad that he got fired right after the show.
Oh, wow. But yeah, that was, BYOFL was just like a saving grace. And like, I'd always remember when like the new issue would come out and like everybody would scramble to get a copy of it. But like, it was as thick as a phone book.
Yeah.
Wow. It was huge, but it was like the best, like, $20 investment you could possibly make.
Oh yeah, and it was all like in the punk scene. You know, it wasn't like mainstream type bands or clubs. Mm-hmm. It was like all the underground places.
Yeah,
which is cool about it.
Which is how I ended up booking like a bunch of stuff. Like even after the internet came out, I would still like kind of refer back to some of those places that I would remember and be like, I should look this place up. And like that's how I booked a tour from here to like northern New York and back in like the early 2000s. Uh-huh. Speaking of the early 2000s.
Segue. Nice segue.
Segue. That's when wound up forming the Jabs with a few people that I'd met around like the Indiana punk rock scene. Ended up becoming roommates with my buddy Jade, who's passed on. But we were heavily influenced by a lot of like garage rock, like I've mentioned on here before, the Mummies, Oblivions, more punk rock bands like the New Bomb Turks, Iggy and the Stooges, things along those lines. But that was the band that we booked from here to New York with the band from England that flew over for a tour, which was hilarious. But yeah, that band lasted a while. We did pretty good. We had a couple offers from labels, but unfortunately both labels met weird fates at the exact same time. I can't remember the name of one, but they ended up having one of their partners run off with all of their money and inventory, and I guess they haven't found him since. Wow. They still have no clue what happened to this guy.
Wow.
And then the other one wound up having a warehouse fire, and like all their product was gone. Their in-house studio where bands would come and record, that burned down. All their equipment was gone, so all their overhead was completely gone. So that never materialized with anything. So we were like, well, crap. And then we all had depression issues already before all that happened. So then we were like, I don't really feel like working on new songs. So we just got real complacent and lazy, played some real fun shows, but I mean, that was about it. But then once I started kind of feeling that we weren't really going anywhere, that's when the band right before 5 Year Mission got started, because I met the singer when he was doing artwork for the record store that I used to manage, Shelby Kelly. He brought in these demos that he had recorded all of the instruments on. drums, bass, guitars, vocals, everything. And he was just like, hey, would you want to help me flesh these out into a full band thing? And so that's how Creepin' Charlie and the Boneyard Orchestra wound up being born. We were kind of like trying to remember what a reviewer described us as. It was an after midnight concoction where the Rolling Stones and Tom Waits want to challenge you to a street fight. And I was like, that's a pretty accurate description.
I think someone could imagine what it sounds like without hearing it from that, actually.
Yeah, that's how through Creepin' Charlie is how I initially met Noah, because we played with Noah's old band Eisenhower Field Day at Radio for one of the Barfly showcases. Mm-hmm. And I ended up seeing him. I was like, who are these goofy people up here in shirts and ties? And who's that tiny lady singing? And I was like, oh wait, that's Noah. No, they were really good. I remember I was pretty impressed by them, but I don't think Noah wound up sticking around to watch us.
That sounds like Noah.
Classic Noah.
Finish my drink and get out of here.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you can't leave the drink.
Yeah, but Creepin' Charlie, we put out 1 7-inch, 2 full-length albums, and an EP. We did some decent touring, did Chicago and Cincy and Cleveland, bunch of shows around Indy, and we would always try to do them up because with Shelby being the singer, being like this amazing artist, just look up Shelby Skeleton Art on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. This dude is one of the most amazing artists I've ever met, who doesn't have gallery shows in like every corner of the country.
He did the cover to Spock's Brain, right?
Yeah, Shelby's the guy that drew the front and back cover of our Spock's Brain EP. Yeah,
longest EP you've ever heard.
That's right. Supposed to be an EP, turned out an LP. But yeah, that was fun. But then we started kind of winding down, and then I was bandless for a while until one of Mike and I's mutual friends. Well, she actually ended up suggesting me as the drummer for 5 Year Mission, and Mike and I had no clue who the hell each other were.
Nope.
I walked in a store with a giant beard.
I knew of the Farkness on IMN, but we had never met, and I had never seen you play or anything.
Little did you know what you were getting into.
I had seen Creeping Charlie, but it was one of those shows where there were a lot of bands playing. Oh. And, I was kind of paying attention to what was going on, but not fully. And so I know that I'd seen you all before, but I didn't remember. But I did know you from IMN. I hadn't talked to you, but I knew who you were. When you came in to audition, I'm pretty sure that I recognized you just from seeing you out and about, like on the scene. But I didn't know you.
Well, that was what Barfly Wayne would always tell me. He was like, man, before I knew who you were, I knew of you because you were the guy that was outside every single venue, sometimes two or three shows a night on different sides of town, like shoving flyers into people's hands. It's like, that's true. I would do that. Like first day I'd go to Kinko's, make all my flyers, handbills, and posters, and then go around to every record store and venue in the city and just have a roll of tape and push pins and handbills with rubber bands surrounding them and just promoting the crap out of it. Oh no, that was another thing about like the early incarnations of bands. If you had a Kinko's hookup, you were set.
Oh yeah,
because there was my first contact at a Kinko's was a dude named Travis, who I still know to this day. He saw that I was making flyers, and he's like, hey man, you in a band? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you making flyers? Do you do that often? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, here, come like around the corner real quick. It was back when Kinko still had those like prepaid cards, and he handed me a card. I put it in the machine, and it was like, balance $500. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, these flyers are gonna be full color now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Rebuilt had many a Mike Rittenhouse hookup.
Oh yeah,
because we churned out the flyers too.
Yeah,
I remember all the time. I remember a lot of nights, like out in the cold, taping flyers to the telephone poles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the days.
I would print up hundreds and hundreds of flyers for Little Voice, and we'd go around, put them up everywhere. Still only had like 4 people at the show.
Yeah,
Right?
But the word was getting out.
Everybody
They
knew
may
the
never
shows
have
that they
heard
weren't
you,
going to
but at a
see.
certain point, they'd see your name and it would be familiar to them.
Oh yeah, that's that band I didn't see.
That's right.
That's that band from that flyer that I crumpled up and threw on the ground immediately.
Yeah, right. So Andy, let's talk about the lead up to your audition.
Audition.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, we brought you.
I know. It just sounds weird.
I mean, we talked about how we'd had a few other guys in before you. You know, when you came in, obviously we knew right away. We're like, okay, this guy fits in, and you know, he's actually a drummer. You know, he's not a guitar player that drums on the side. but leading up to that, I mean, what were you thinking? And then once you got there, what did you think? And then how'd you feel about it?
So yeah, I went up, met Mike. We just kind of briefly talked. I can't even fully remember the initial conversation. I think it was like, what kind of stuff are you into? What am I about to listen to here? What are the styles? And you were like, it's just like, you know, acoustic demos, you know, just kind of listen to it, you know, get a feeling for them, you know. I think I did it now looking back at it and hearing like the story of like the guitarists coming in trying to be drummers. I remember him now hammering that point home of like, these are the songs that we would like to do. So, yeah, I listened through them, and
These are the ones you should learn to come to
Right.
audition for us.
Don't show up unprepared.
Yeah.
well, because it was the first time in a while that it wasn't like, you know, I'm just going in blind with like, you know, hey, let's get together, just kind of see what happens, and just mess around at first. And because like when I joined the Shortcuts, they already had an album out, so I was able to listen through their album and learn the songs that way, just fully fleshed out with, you know, oh, this is the drum parts they're doing. And then with like Creep and Charlie, like the first 6 songs that we did were already recorded to a 7-inch that Shelby, the singer, had given me, so I already knew what kind of drum stuff he was going for. It was just acoustic demos, and I had to just kind of listen through and be like, all right, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if this would work. And I didn't have a drum set up in my house to play, so it's just me tapping on a steering wheel or on a coffee table, literally like trying to figure out parts for these songs. And then I like to think I came in and I nailed them.
That's so funny because we talk about how, you know, you came in and you actually knew the songs and you had clearly prepared.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you didn't have a drum kit and you were tapping them out on a steering wheel.
Yeah.
We played The Cage. This is the first song that we played together, and we got to the part with the stops, and you did the stops.
Yeah.
We're like, this is gonna work.
but lose the beard.
Yeah, right.
Which I didn't until after our first photo shoot, and I was like, ew, that beard looks awful.
The year one. Well, so did our uniforms, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
This guy put this much effort in. Let's hire him.
Oh, come on. I at least put this much effort in.
Yeah, well,
I paid attention to the dynamics as much as I could with an acoustic guitar
yeah.
and Mike's vocals.
But it was just nice to have somebody come in and actually know what it was and
Right.
and follow us through. So that was it was a nice surprise. That's what got you the gig, the stops.
So how did you feel after that first practice?
I was into it because, I mean, it was
Obviously, you're still here, so
yeah. I mean, so something went right considering I'm here a decade later.
You know, I have no recollection of the conversation after you left. And, you know, we were deciding, I can't remember, did we decide right off, or I feel like we let it mellow for a minute and then we called each other later or something like that.
I thought I remembered it being pretty instant.
It might have been. It might have been.
Thank you, Patrick.
I want to say we were pretty sure right away as soon as you left that we wanted to keep working with you.
Yeah.
Did we call you that night or?
No, it wasn't until actually you guys were like a bad date, and it wasn't until like 2 days later.
let's just say that Noah was the holdout and we had to convince him.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
When in doubt, blame Noah.
So let's go back. Let's look back before the FARC entered our lives.
Do a little slingshot.
And we'll do a little slingshot. So Patrick, you're coming home from California. At what point did Mike just contact you, or how did that work?
It was a weird time for me. Well, first of all, I should say that before I moved out there, Mike and I were hanging out a lot, and I think we probably would have done a project together earlier if I hadn't moved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were talking about it.
And so we just kind of picked up where we left off, I think, is what happened. Because I got back in October of 2009, and I was just living in an apartment, and he came over and played me some stuff. I remember he played me The Man Trap and Enemy Within on the acoustic demos. And I remember that specifically because I had just watched the Enemy Within episode, like right before he came over. And I think it was just, I don't even think that I knew that it was a Star, maybe I did know it was a Star Trek thing. But
so he played you the demo of Enemy Within, and you still wanted to be in the band.
And well, Man Trap is the one that I remember liking the music to. That was the first one he played me, I think. Enemy Within struck a chord with me because I had just watched the episode.
Okay, that's fair.
And he started doing the I Want to Live part. I was like, yeah, this is it.
Well, at least he didn't play Dagger for you.
I know how to not scare somebody off, Chris.
And so that I didn't know what it was going to sound like for sure with everybody, of course, but I think I sat down and I watched, like, we picked out a couple of the songs, and like within a week or so, I think I wrote like Charlie X and Miri like back to back in like one day.
Yes, I remember getting the demos and thinking, now what am I going to do?
This is a sort of a side anecdote, but similarly, Ed Show was working on his Ignore City podcast that we did Shake-Ups music for recently.
Yeah.
And he wanted a 2-minute punk song, and he sent me some information about what he wanted. It was like, I got it at like 10 in the morning. I came home at lunchtime, came up with something, recorded it, and sent it back to him at 1 in the afternoon. And he thought, that must have been a song that you already had. I was like, no, man, I just wrote that. But it was a 3-chord punk song, you know? So I can write to order if I need to.
As we've utilized over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Patrick, we need a George Takei song. Can you do that?
Right.
You've got about 15 minutes.
I had this idea at work today.
I think it was just the rough idea. I don't think anybody said, Patrick, write this. I think it was just, I think I have something I can do for that. You know what I me? Like we talked about it just very briefly.
Yeah.
And then, it took like half an hour total, I think. But we were talking about auditions earlier. I know I'm going back again. When I auditioned for the Madeira, Yvonne gave me a CD of like 30 songs. I mean, the Madeira had 2 songs recorded at that point, and everything else was a cover. Okay. I learned 20 songs for our first get together, all instrumentals, right? All very technical songs, and I'm playing rhythm guitar and stuff that I'd never heard before. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
But in surf, there's really only like 3 different chord progressions. So, I mean.
Well, in most surf music, yes, but in the songs he was playing, that was not the case. It was like the prog rock of surf,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the point is, going into an audition, you never know for sure what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
When did we first get together as the 4 of us? Was that at Mike's house?
It was at Hero House, and
Was it
was
at Hero House?
Acoustics. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I remember, I have a distinct memory of getting together in Mike's living room. It may have just been Noah and Mike and I at the time, but I thought that it was a 4 of us. Mike, do you remember?
I don't, honestly. I have a terrible memory.
Because you had that the couch with the little with the ottoman.
Yeah, I mean, I remember both. I think we did, we had different practices at each. But I definitely remember at Hero House, we kind of put the chairs around in a circle. Like I'm literally sitting in that spot at the moment. Yeah, we kind of had the chairs around here and just kind of
easier than I remember.
It was the end of the summer,
Yeah.
when we started doing that. And then I don't have any memory of any practices really up until we were at Noah's house.
I don't think that we really had very many. It was really just us writing acoustic
songs?
demos and sharing them.
Yeah. Okay.
We
that
got
makes
together a few times and just kind of talked and ran over the songs, but not really.
I tend to forget that it was really just a recording project at first. We hadn't really intended to play out. And so we didn't really need to get together to play until we had songs to play with, to record. I mean, realistically, if it was a recording project, I don't know that we would have made it through if that's all we were doing. It's just, or either that or we wouldn't be nearly as far as we are now.
Or we would have finished it a long time ago. And it would have just been a thing that we did.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that scenario too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shows and rehearsing for shows takes up a lot of time. So.
Yeah, it does.
You're welcome.
Especially now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know.
I can't believe it's been almost a year.
And next month it'll be a full year since our last show.
Since we even played together.
Concave, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Last weekend of February.
A full since we played together at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Are you guys still playing?
Like with ourselves?
Still picking up instruments?
Are you guys still playing with yourselves?
Yeah.
Seldomly, yes.
Yeah, I could pick up my guitar more often, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I actually, in the beginning, I was doing really well, just picking up my guitar and, just kind of playing around like half an hour every night, just trying to get ideas out and do that kind of thing. And I did that for a few weeks and I just started putting it down and I don't know. My motivation is at an all-time low these days.
Yeah. This year's been
it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple of shakeups, things that were already sort of in process when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
And it was nice that I had the time then to finish them. So, but
Right.
Finishing something is a lot easier than starting something.
Yeah.
And I did
Very
do the
true.
Resounding Maybes album, which is finally done. But since that got finished late last year, it's been hard to sort of start anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote the one song for year 5. Well, and I've heard some of your demo, just clips when the Patreon videos, Patrick.
Oh yeah.
So I know you have all 4 of yours written, don't you?
No, 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4. Okay. Yeah, I have the one.
I've been saving one so that it's more current when we get back together.
Right.
I have had a lot of ideas that have just not panned out. Mm-hmm. But I've got some other ideas, in the chamber. I just have to sit down and work at it. I have ideas for Wink of an Eye and Alana Troyes.
Nice.
And the Savage Curtain can suck it. I hate that episode. I don't know what I'm going to write for that.
Classic Virgin.
Classic me.
Hey, do you miss getting new content from 5 Year Mission? You should head over to patreon.com/5yearmission and check out our Patreon page. As a patron of the band, you will receive access to rare and behind-the-scenes pictures and videos and other cool stuff. You will also have early access to many things, like video releases or new songs. You can sign up for different levels, from ensign all the way up to admiral. One of the perks of being an admiral on 5 Year Mission's Patreon is that you get to be a producer on this podcast. Currently, our producers are Neil Carpenter, Helen Lake, Debbie Rinke, Carol Jones, Becky and Roxy, Steve and Frankie Palopoli, Madison Rachel Jones, and Jim Morehouse. Your name could be on this list if you sign up as an admiral. So head over to patreon.com/5yearmission now. That's the number 5 Year Mission.
You already already know about Fansets by now, don't you? I talk about it on here every week, so I would think by now you know what to expect from Fansets. High-quality pins and collectibles. So head over to Fansets right now, fansets.com. They're teasing some stuff over on Twitter right now, including collector cases to show off all the beautiful pins that you can get from them. Also, coming around March or April, they've been teasing Commander Riker in the full-on Riker pose. That's right, the one leg up on the chair, full-on Riker pose. Along with Ezri Dax, that should be coming around March or April. It's in approval for artwork right now. Also in approval for artwork right now that they're teasing over there, Rin from Star Trek Discovery. Can't wait to have a new Andorian on my jacket. So head over to fansets.com right now, fill up your cart, and when you get to checkout, enter the code 5-Year Mission. That is the number 5 and then all caps Year Mission. 5-Year Mission. Get 10% off of your entire order. Do it now. Fansets. Our pins have character, and we thank them for sponsoring our podcast each and every single episode.
So that's the end of our first two-parter. How do you guys feel about it?
Being very serialized.
I do feel serialized.
I feel like darn tootin'.
Speaking of cereal, have you guys tried the Mandalorian cereal?
I didn't know there was such a thing.
There is, yeah. It's like Kix with marshmallows in it.
Nice.
Is the main ingredient the whey?
I think it's the Force, but the whey is in there. Well,
WHEY, Chris.
I knew what you were saying. I knew what you meant, Andy.
Thanks, Mike.
I can't believe that went right over my head. I will admit it.
He's just going to milk that joke.
But that's what happens when you're in 5-Year Mission. You don't always catch everything. But now that you've heard our stories, you know it all. See what I did there? I segued.
Oh, shut up.
So anyway, we've told our stories. We've had our fun. It's time to bid you all a fond adieu.
Fondue?
Yes. Now that we've had our way with you. And away we go.
Stealing my joke, man, that you didn't even get in the first place.
I know. This is getting way out there, isn't it? Wait a minute.
He's definitely milking it.
Patrick, you and Andy, there's a lot of stuff you guys talked about. I had no idea.
Oh, really?
Like what?
Yeah, I didn't Patrick. I didn't know you owned venues. And I think when we were talking last week, Noah had mentioned something about going to the Bub's place.
Bubba's Bowling.
And I was like, Patrick owned a venue? I had no idea.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm learning
in the
stuff
before times.
Right.
Yeah, in the before times.
Chris is like, if I had known you owned venues, I would have done an open stage there.
Well, it's been fun talking about all the good old times with you guys.
It has been. It has.
Very natural. That sounded very, very natural.
It was great.
Actually, a lot of memories that I kind of have forgotten or I have trouble remembering. So it's nice to be.
It is nice to have a collective memory because there are so many things that I just don't remember, and I'm glad many of you brought things up that now I will hopefully remember.
We should probably give everyone a sample of some of the bands that we're talking about. Do you have a song that you would like to share with everyone, Noah?
I do. The song that I'm going to share from Eisenhower Field Day is called Sunshine Patriots. It was kind of a protest song that I wrote at the height of the Bush administration, thinking that was like the worst that it could possibly get. And little did I know what the last 4 years would bring us. But the sentiment is the same. And so, but it's called Sunshine Patriots, and it was one that we really liked to do.
We had snapped our bags this way.
You are the sunshine, you are the summer. You are the sunshine, you are the summer. You are the sunshine, you are the summer. You are the sunshine, you are the summer soldier. You are the sunshine. Patriot, 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 patriot.
So I remember that song, Noah. I
do too.
I remember hearing you play it a lot.
What was the name of your last album?
That album, the last album we put out was called Tyrants and Spies.
Tyrants and Spies. That's right. You had all those the promo art for that was you guys. It was like black and white, and you were in suits.
Yeah, because
in suits, didn't you?
That's right. We did. We spent probably a good 2 years playing in suits with skinny ties, where we looked like we were like CIA agents from the 60s.
And you still switch back to that profile picture all the time on Facebook when you don't have anything else to put up there.
I do. And I loved that photo shoot. That photo shoot was so much fun, and we just did it ourselves. We went up into one of the storage rooms at the elementary school where I work, and like arranged a desk and old school clocks and just made it look like a spy room, like some kind of, CIA war room. And just took a bunch of pictures with just a camera on a timer and a tripod, and they turned out really great. So I do like going back to that. But man, every time I post that up and it says 2008, I look at that and I go, oh my God, I have aged so much. I look like such a baby there.
We all have so much. So did you have any other songs that you wanted to share?
Well, if people were interested in some of the more solo kind of electronic stuff that I was tinkering around with, there's a song by the Cobot Factory called Whistle the Lions that that I like a lot, that I was pretty proud of. And so we can play that one too.
So, how about you, Chris? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and in the second incarnation of Rebuilt, we had a lot of songs that we started recording and never actually got released. And one of them that we played out several times is called Insomniac Radio. And to be honest, I don't remember what it's about. I remember that it had some kind of special meaning to me at the time. I think it was, like some socially conscious song about all this noise that's out there. And this was probably one of the first songs where I really started trying to branch out and do something a little bit differently than I had done before, both musically and lyrically. I think it's a cool song. I think it's still, it sounds dated to me now, but at the time I really liked it and I still do. And as far as the songs that I've written, there's some songs out there that I listen to them just like, man, where did this come from? And this is one that actually kind of still holds up for me more than most of my older songs. So it's called Insomniac Radio. What about you?
Well, actually, one project that I forgot to mention when I was going through my different bands and stuff is one one thing I did when I was living in Lafayette, and this was while I was in Little Voice. It was called Wang, and it's me and my friend Alan, who I mentioned earlier, who was in Broken Up, and we would hang out. We hung out all the time, like every day, and we both worked at Target together, and so I mean we were like best friends for a long time, and we wrote. We would just write these goofy songs, and what would happen is we'd get together and hang out, and around 7 or 8 o'clock we'd like make up some dumb song and just like flesh it out, and then we would record it, and then by like midnight or 1 a.m. we had like a rough mix of it, and we would add it to our CD of all the rough mixes that we had done, and then we'd drive to Taco Bell at like 1 a.m. listening to the songs we recorded. And so that was called Wang, and we ended up with like I think 12 songs total. That recording project is really where I learned a lot of the methods I use for recording and mixing, which, as you guys know, like I do a lot of stuff with that. So, because before that, all of the stuff that I'd recorded with bands, somebody else recorded and mixed, and I might have a little input, but it wasn't me doing it. And when we recorded Wang, I did everything. And ever since then, I've been very much of a control freak when it comes to mixing and recording. So, as Chris can attest to.
What?
So anyway,
I don't obsess at all though, do I?
Oh no, not at all. Actually, what's funny is of everyone in 5 Year Mission, Noah is the only member who like will come over for an evening, push me out of the way, and sit down and just completely change everything on his mix without consulting me. He'll just start pressing buttons and moving stuff around and deleting things, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm done with that. You can do what you want with it now." And then I'll sit down and it'll just be a completely different song.
At least I make my changes in the recording process.
Yeah.
I come in and say, "Hey, Andy, I want you to do the drums like this instead. Let's go record now." Yeah. Play.
I know that this was like an upbeat 4/4 song. But now it's going to be like a 3/4 slower.
It's a waltz. It's a waltz now. Deal with it.
So it's called Wang. And the song that I'm going to play is called Real Song.
Supposed to do when I forget about your lies, and I can't stand to look you in the eyes. What am I supposed to say when I see you once again?
Well, Patrick, how about you?
It is quite difficult to pick out one song to play you in so many years of making original music and in doing different types of music. I will say to please check out power pop band The Shakeups. Our albums Meddling Kids or A Twist of Lemon will give you a nice range of what we do. My instrumental surf rock band The Madeira released its last studio album in 2015 entitled Ancient Winds. All of those are available on iTunes, Spotify, and some tracks on YouTube. If you want to check out some of the spaced out rock music I was making before 5 Year Mission, look for Destination Earth. We have a best of compilation, or the album Adventures in New Space is also another good place to start. For this, I'm going to play you a song from my new band, The Resounding Maybes. I've always been inspired by the late 80s and early 90s sounds of dream pop and shoegaze, and always wanted to have a project of that style and just had never gotten around to it until now. But over the past year in lockdown, we've had the opportunity to create new music and record our debut album, Sine Qua Non, which is out this month. And this is Arms of Loss from The Resounding Maybes.
right, Andy, what do you got for us?
This next song is by my band, The Jabs, which were together in the early 2000s or so. You heard me talk about it on the podcast. This song in particular was off of our EP of the same name, Coming On Strong, and it is based on the book Junkie by William S. Burroughs. I had let my singer borrow my copy of it, and he loved it so much that he needed to write a quick little punk song about it. So here you go, The Jabs, Coming On Strong.
I need a fix. I need it quick. I need it fast. I'm feeling dope sick. And if you got it, child, do it right. Do it right. And if you got it. And if you got it, child, do it right. Do it right. And if you got it, do it every night. Oh yeah.
Thanks for listening to us reminisce about our times before 5-Year Mission. We hope that you had as much fun listening to us tell these stories as we did telling them. If you're still not sick of hearing a band talk about writing songs about Star Trek, then you should tune into our next episode where we talk to Star Trek band Warp 11. Next time on 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5-Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
5-Year Mission, the podcast, is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.